Most players love rushing, dropping into hot zones, clearing buildings, and taking 1 versus 4 squad fights alone. But here's the harsh truth. 90% of them fail to clutch, not because of bad aim, but because they're using the wrong sensitivity for that playstyle. Your setup might work for long-range sprays or slow-paced games, but when it comes to fast reactions, quick sprays, and aggressive movement, you need a different kind of sensitivity that matches your speed. And guess what? Regular sensitivity just doesn't work for aggressive play. You need a setup that matches your speed and style. So, in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 steps to master a rush-friendly sensitivity setup and some bonus tips at the end that give you faster flicks, smoother control, and more confidence in every close fight. Whether you use gyro or not, I've got something for you. All right, let's start with step 1. Fast camera sensitivity. For non-gyro and gyro movement, let's start with the most important part of rush gameplay, your camera sensitivity. This setting controls how fast your screen moves when you're just looking around, not shooting. Basically, your free look and normal camera movement. And when you're playing aggressively, rushing enemies, pushing stairs, or clearing houses, your screen needs to move fast. Every split second matters when you're checking corners, reacting to footsteps, or spotting an enemy in close range. So let's break it down. First, for non-gyro players, then for gyro players. For non-gyro players, your camera sensitivity is doing all the work. Since you don't use your device's tilt to control movement, everything depends on your fingers, so your camera needs to be quick and responsive. If it's too low, your screen will feel heavy and slow, and you won't be able to flick fast enough to react in time during a close fight. That's a big problem when you're rushing into rooms or trying to track enemies moving around fast. So I suggest keeping your third-person camera, non-ADS, somewhere between 120 to 140, and if you play FPP mode, go slightly higher, like 130 to 150 for first-person camera. These numbers give you fast screen movement without losing control. But remember, bro, every player has a different playstyle and device, so these are just starting ranges. The best way to dial it in is to test it in the training ground. Go inside, try quick 180 turns, jiggle movements, and peeking practice. If it feels too slow, increase by 5 to 10 points. If it feels too fast and jumpy, lower it a little until it feels smooth. The goal is to be able to look around quickly without over-flicking. Now, for gyro players, it's a little different. Since you're using gyroscope to control movement and tracking, your camera sensitivity doesn't need to be as high, especially for looking around. Your device tilt is doing part of the job, so over-relying on fast camera settings can actually make your movement feel unstable. For gyro users, I recommend starting with third-person camera sensitivity around 100 to 120, just enough for quick peeking and scanning your surroundings. And for first-person, you can go a little higher, maybe 120 to 130, just to make your perspective feel snappier when you're pushing in FPP. The key with gyro is finding a balance between your finger movement and your tilt control. If your camera is too fast, your gyro might not sync well and cause over-aiming. Again, training ground is your best friend here. Go in, do some close-range peeking drills, try switching directions quickly, and test how smooth your screen movement feels. You'll know it's right when you can peek fast and turn sharply without missing aim control. At the end of the day, bro, rush gameplay is all about quick vision and fast reactions, and camera sensitivity controls that first visual reaction. Whether you're non-gyro or gyro, this setting is the base of your entire rush setup. Take the time to fine-tune it based on your hand movement, device speed, and overall feel. Once it clicks, you'll notice your reaction time and close-range fights start getting way better. Step 2. Higher ADS sensitivity for faster aim. Lock. All right, bro. Now let's talk about something that decides whether you hit your shots or completely miss in a rush fight. And that's your ADS sensitivity. This kicks in the moment you tap that fire button. Not before, not after. And it controls how your screen moves while you're actually shooting. And trust me, in fast-paced, close-range fights, your ADS sensitivity can either save your life or sell your fight. If it's too low, your aim will feel heavy, and it won't keep up with enemies strafing, jumping, or moving fast. But if it's too high, your aim will overshoot and shake uncontrollably. So you need to find the sweet spot. And that sweet spot depends on whether you're a non-gyro player or a gyro player. First, let's break it down for non-gyro players. Since you're not using gyroscope, your thumbs are doing all the heavy lifting, movement, aiming, and recoil control all at once. That means your ADS sensitivity becomes super important, especially in rush fights where enemies pop out fast and your time to react is super short. For red dot and holographic, I suggest starting around 60 to 80 ADS sensitivity. This gives you a fast lock-on without making your aim feel too wild. If you're using 3x for short to mid sprays, keep it somewhere between 40 to 60. These are rough ranges to start with. The idea is to keep it slightly higher than your camera sensitivity, so you can smoothly transition from looking around to spraying without that weird, slow feeling. And as always, bro, test it in the training ground. Try tracking bots that strafe side to side. If your aim feels slow and laggy, increase it a bit. If it overshoots every time you adjust, bring it down slightly. Non-gyro players need their ADS dialed in perfectly, or else the recoil becomes way harder to control. Now let's talk about gyro players, because things are a little different here. When you use gyroscope, your ADS sensitivity is mostly responsible for thumb aiming during recoil, but your gyro controls the main vertical and horizontal movement. That means you don't need super high ADS numbers, but you still need it fast enough to keep up when you combine it with tilt control. For red dot, most gyro players do great with ADS between 50 to 70, just enough for minor thumb adjustment and better control when your gyro isn't enough. For 3x and 6x scopes, around 35 to 50 is ideal, because you don't want it too stiff, but it shouldn't fight against your gyroscope either. The goal for gyro users is to let your hands do the recoil work, while your ADS just helps you stay on target and track enemies smoothly. And again, the training ground is your best testing zone. Go in, spray at moving targets, try crouch and jump sprays, and see if your ADS is too slow to follow. If it is, bump it up slightly. If it feels twitchy or unstable, reduce it a bit until your thumb and tilt are working in harmony. Whether you're non-gyro or full gyro, here's one pro tip that works for both. Always keep your ADS sensitivity slightly higher than your camera sensitivity. Why? Because your camera sensitivity is meant for smooth looking around when you're not fighting. But the moment bullets fly, you need faster reactions and quicker adjustments. That's what your ADS does. It gives your aim the boost it needs to stick to fast-moving enemies and win close fights. So bro, take your time, test it properly, and make sure your ADS is helping you, not holding you back. A few small tweaks here can change everything. Trust me, rush gameplay is all about reaction and control, and this is the setting that controls both. Step 3. Gyroscope sensitivity for full control. Now, if you're a gyro player, this is where you really start winning fights, bro. Because in rush gameplay, we're talking fast pushes, 1v1 peaks, and squad wipes. Your gyro sensitivity becomes your biggest weapon. The gyro lets you control recoil, aim faster, and even track enemies while moving, all by tilting your device. But here's the catch. Your sensitivity has to be set just right. If it's too low, your screen feels heavy and your recoil control will be delayed. If it's too high, your aim goes wild and shakes all over the place. That's why for rush fights, your gyroscope camera sensitivity needs to be snappy but also stable. I recommend keeping your red dot gyro between 200 to 230. This gives you that fast flick for close fights while still letting you control full sprays. For 3x scope, somewhere around 130 to 160 works great, enough to track enemies at mid-range while still managing recoil. And for 6x, try around 90 to 120. This one needs to be lower because the zoom is tighter and the recoil feels heavier. But here's the most important thing. These numbers are just a base starting point, not a one-size-fits-all setup. Every player has different hand movements, screen size, and playing style. So after you apply this setup, go to the training ground and actually test it out. Try doing crouch sprays with M416, jump sprays with UMP, or flicking left and right while jiggling. The goal is to train your hand to move naturally with your device tilt. That's how you build real muscle memory. After a few days of practice, you'll notice your aim doesn't even feel forced. It just happens. That's the power of gyroscope when it's tuned properly. Once you find that perfect balance between speed and control, bro, your close-range fights will become way easier, and your reactions will feel 10 times faster. So take this seriously. Gyro is your best friend in rush gameplay, but only if you set it up right and practice with it daily. Step 4. Hipfire Sensitivity. Very important. All right, bro, now let's talk about one of the most underrated parts of rush gameplay, Hipfire Sensitivity. Most players focus only on scope settings, but when you're fighting up close, inside buildings, on stairs, or in tight compounds, you won't have time to open your scope. In those clutch moments, Hipfire decides the fight. That's why your third-person no-scope and first-person no-scope sensitivity needs to be fast, but also smooth enough to control your aim. If it's too low, your crosshair won't keep up with enemies strafing left and right. If it's too high, your aim will fly off the target with the slightest swipe. For rush players, I recommend keeping both third-person and first-person no-scope sensitivity around 130 to 150. This gives you enough speed to track enemies during fast movements without making your screen feel too shaky. But as always, bro, these numbers depend on your play style and your muscle control. So don't just copy and paste them. Go into Cheer Park or the training ground and practice hipfire-only fights. Try tracking bots while moving side to side, crouch spray without aiming, and test how your screen reacts when you flick fast in close range. You'll start building the muscle memory you need to stay locked on target without relying on ADS. And trust me, mastering hipfire sensitivity will make a huge difference in those surprise 1 versus 1s, especially when you get pushed suddenly or have to spray mid-sprint. It's one of the key things that separates casual players from aggressive rushers, so don't skip this setting, bro. Once you get used to it, you'll start winning more close-range fights without even thinking about it. Step 5. Adjust based on your device and finger setup. Now, this part is super important, but most players completely ignore it. Your device and finger setup actually have a huge impact on how your sensitivity feels. Let's say you're using a high-end phone with 90 FPS. Your screen already feels super smooth and responsive, so you might not need crazy high sensitivity. In fact, using slightly lower values can give you more control and reduce shakiness during sprays. But if you're on a mid-range or low-end device stuck at 60 FPS, there's more input delay and frame lag, which makes your aim feel a bit heavier. That's where using a slightly higher sensitivity helps. It speeds up your screen response and makes the gameplay feel more snappy, even if your device is slower. So don't blindly copy some pro's settings if your phone is totally different. Sensitivity always feels different based on your FPS and screen smoothness. Now let's talk about your finger setup, because this also changes how your sensitivity should be. If you're a 2-finger player, your thumbs are doing everything: movement, aim, shoot, scope. So your sensitivity needs to be a little slower and more stable. You don't have time for crazy flicks because your screen space and finger reach is limited. But if you're using a 4-finger claw, that changes everything. You have a separate finger for scoping, another for shooting, and your thumb is free to fully focus on tracking and movement. That means you can afford to use slightly faster sensitivity, especially for camera and ADS, because you have more control and quicker reaction. Even 3-finger players fall somewhere in between, a balanced setup that gives you better aim control without overcomplicating things. So at the end of the day, bro, this is your setup. Don't just copy what someone else is using because they play well. Think about your phone, your FPS, your fingers, and your play style. Start with base values, then tweak them slowly. Go to the training ground, try different guns, test in real matches, and keep adjusting until it feels natural and comfortable. That's how you build a perfect rush sensitivity setup, one that's designed for you, not just for anyone. Bonus tip. All right, bro. Here's a bonus tip that can seriously take your rush gameplay to the next level. Don't just set your sensitivity and forget it. You need to actually practice your rush movements with that sensitivity setup. Because sensitivity isn't just about numbers or settings. It's about how your fingers and screen work together in real fight situations. Once you've locked in your camera, ADS, gyro, and Hipfire settings, now it's time to train like a real rusher. Go into TDM or training ground and start practicing crouch sprays, jump shots, peek and fire from cover, and even rushing through smoke or blind angles. These are the kinds of movements you'll be doing in real matches, so you need to build muscle memory around them. Make sure your aim feels stable when crouching, your spray stays on target when you jump, and your peek shots are quick and snappy. If something feels off, go back, adjust slightly, and test again. That's how you make your sensitivity feel like an extension of your hand. When you get it right, you won't even have to think about your aim. It will just happen automatically while you rush and outplay your enemies. So remember, don't just copy a code and move on. Train your rush moves with your sensitivity and watch how much smoother your gameplay becomes. Alright bro, so that's how you build the best sensitivity setup for rush players. But hey, if you're still struggling with things like recoil control, not sure how to use gyro the right way, or your close range fights still feel messy, I will recommend you check out my Ultimate Close Range Guide playlist. It's a full series made just for rush players, covering everything from movement to sensitivity and headshots. Click on any video on your screen right now and I'll see you there.